All right, good afternoon and welcome to the fifth lecture of 2026 spring season of the Frankfort Heritage Lecture Series and our 34th lecture in total. Thank you all for coming. My name is John Carlton and I'm the organizer of the Frankfort Heritage Week Coalition and co-organizer of this lecture series. As always, I want to extend a big thank you to Paul Sawyer Public Library for hosting us and to my co-organizer, Adult Services Manager Diane Dehoney, for everything she and her staff do for these lectures and for our community. And of course, thanks to the Frankfort Plant Board and Cable 10 for recording these lectures and making them available on YouTube, and to the State Journal for consistently giving us great additional publicity. We're also grateful to the Kentucky Historical Society's America 250 KY Commission for helping us officially present this series in the context of America 250. The Kentucky River drains some 7,000 square miles of central and eastern Kentucky. It carried timber and coal from the mountains, salt from the licks, hemp and tobacco from the bluegrass, and whiskey from the distilleries that still line its banks. It was to have been part of a canal system reaching from Louisville to Charleston, South Carolina. It was the terminus for Kentucky's first railroad, and its lock and dam system, one of the oldest in the nation, is itself a monument to 19th century engineering and ambition. I'm very excited to have our speaker today. His book, Kentucky River Packets, was one of the first Frankfort history books that I picked up that was not a general Frankfort or Franklin County history book. And I gladly sat with he and Roger Stapleton many times on the porch of the Sullivan House at Fort Hill discussing all aspects of Frankfort history, particularly pioneer times, Civil War, steamboats, and railroads and interurbans. There are few more qualified guides for today's journey down the Kentucky River's commerce history. Please join me in welcoming Adult Services Manager Diane Dehoney, who will introduce today's speaker.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. As John said, my name is Diane Dehoney. I'm the Adult Services Manager here at Paul Sawyer. On behalf of everyone here, we're just thrilled to see you. So thank you for being here for another fantastic Frankfort Heritage Lecture. It is my great honor today to introduce our good friend Charles H. Bogart. He grew up in Newport and Fort Thomas, Kentucky, and has lived in Frankfort since 1965. He has a BA in history from Thomas More University and an MCP from the Ohio State University. He retired from the Kentucky Department of Emergency Management, where he worked in the Hazardous Materials Plans and Operations section. He is currently employed as a conductor at the Bluegrass Railroad Museum in Versailles. He has taught at KSU and Eastern Kentucky University. He has also published 6 books and over 100 articles on military, naval, and railroad history. He is president of the Frankfort Civil War Roundtable, the Chessie System Historical Society, and the North American Transit Historical Society. He is editor of the CSX Transportation Historical Society Journal and the Western River Report for the Steamship Historical Society of America. He's a member of the VFW Post 4075 here in Frankfort, and as a result of his great-grandfather being a private in the 108th Ohio, he's also a member of the Sons of Civil War Union Veterans. Please help me to welcome today to the podium Charles Bogart.
Thank you, Diane. I'm going to do a little sidestep first. She said I've been living here since 65. Yep, since 65. I'm still an outsider. My daughter was born here in King's Daughters Hospital. You know what happened the day we took her home? They closed that hospital so that we couldn't return her, and they ran away and hid up on the other side of the hill. My granddaughter was born here. And I'm amazed at the uncles and aunts and cousins that she got here. And I keep saying to her, who are these people? Grandpa, they're kinfolk. Don't you understand? They're kinfolk. I still don't quite get it. But anyway, welcome to Frankfort, Charles. Yeah, okay. We're going to talk about the Kentucky River Canal, not the Kentucky River. That river has been long gone. That's a man-made canal out there that we're looking at. It's not a wild river. So we're going to be talking about that canal out there. And let's see if Diane trained me right on how to do it. We're going to be talking about the 254 miles that run from Carrollton, Kentucky to Beattyville. I had to stick this in a Paul Sawyer print since we're here at the Paul Sawyer Library. That's down at Blanton Landing. The Kentucky River, when it was back being a wild river. 3 months a year it was frozen. 3 months a year it was in flood. And 6 months a year there was no water in it. So you were really, really constrained on floating anything down the river. This is Cincinnati, Ohio, the water levels at Cincinnati before the locks and dams went in. Hopefully you can hear me. Wait a minute, I think my man back there is saying, no, you guys talk to the the microphone. But anyway, on the far right is the water depth at Cincinnati, Ohio. You can notice it gets down to under 6 feet. You need at least 6 feet of water to float a packet boat. Yes, they sit 5 feet or so in the water, but when they start moving, they sink lower in the water. And the friction between the boat and the riverbank kicks in. So you need at least a foot of water underneath the hull. So you can see how often the river at Cincinnati is down. Whoa! When the river's at 6 feet in Cincinnati, it's at 3 feet in Louisville. The riverbank in Louisville is twice as wide as Cincinnati. So whatever you see the water depth here in Cincinnati, cut that in half, and that's the water depth in Louisville. So you can see that there is very problems with moving transportation up and down the rivers. In the Kentucky River, we had ripples, pools, and snags. Ripples were located below a major stream. There was a ripple below Benson Creek. There was a ripple below Dix River, Red River, Elkhorn, Eagle Creek. And what they did was sandbars, which built up a pool in back of them. So what you had was man-made nature pools where these sandbars were. You also had snags in the river. Unfortunately, we got snags back in the river. If you looked out there at the river, we got snags all over the place. I'm afraid that in a few years, you're not going to be able to do any pleasure boating out there because you're going to have to worry about all the snags sitting in the river. Anyway, you had these problems. Our transportation in the early days was canoe, flatboats, keelboats, and schooners. Ocean-going schooners are built here in Frankfort. We're loading schooners here in Frankfort, floating them down the river, and then sailing them up to the East Coast and to Europe. Kentucky bourbon. They ran on the tides. You guys all know what a tide is, right? Okay, people are nodding their heads. There were two tides. There was the Thanksgiving tide, November, December, and the Easter tide in March and April. That's when the river's in flood, people, in case you don't know. So you floated on the tides. And it was all downriver movement. Because, I know, a couple of you from Canoe, Kentucky can get up there and paddle upriver. But 99% of us, we get out there in that river, we can't paddle more than a half a mile up the river, and then we're completely worn out. So we just float down the river, and then we walk back up the river. 1778, General James Wilkinson, the founder of our fair city. I am totally upset that there's some people who want to rename Wilkinson Avenue because they say he was a traitor. You prove to me that he was ever a traitor. Prove it to me. Oh, he took money from the Spanish government. So what? What does that prove? Nothing. Anyway, off on the side. He floats a flatboat down in New Orleans. His friend, Governor Mayo, who we named a street after, flatter the guy. Okay, we got to get our goods through New Orleans on board a ship to go out. Doesn't hurt to tell the governor down there, we're naming the street after you, right? Okay. So it's a one-way traffic down there, and then you walk back the Natchez Trace to get back here. 1801, the Commonwealth of Kentucky charters the Kentucky River Company to improve navigation on the Kentucky River. We realize how important the Kentucky River is to the life prosperity of central Kentucky. If we're going to move agricultural products to the market, we got to be able to move down the Kentucky River. If the legislature is going to come to meet in Frankfort, we need water in the river so they can get here. Otherwise, they're coming by stagecoach or horse. We need to improve the river communications. They work at it, they do meetings, blah, 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 and nothing really happens. 1804, we built the schooner Crease here in Frankfort. Sent it down the river, all the way to Baltimore, Maryland, carrying bourbon and other goods. And it gets over there. And people, we call it whiskey, and they say, what is this stuff in here? Because in those days, you make the spirits and you sell it within 5 days. This stuff had been sitting in wooden barrels, a pickle barrel that you charred, so the pickle taste wasn't going to be there. And we got the flavor of that and the oak in that into the whiskey. And it has been bouncing and slushing around for over a year. A year-old spirits? That's something new. What is this stuff? It tastes good. I don't know, it comes from Kentucky, Bourbon County or something like that. So, hey, this is the start of that industry moving in. You know, you can move corn. Corn takes up a heck of a lot of space. It doesn't weigh much, and it spoils along the way if it gets wet. We make it into spirits, bourbon. Okay, 1805, the commission does come up with the idea of splash dams. Splash dams are temporary dams you put across the river. You build the water up and back of them, and then by pulling 1 or 2 logs, the whole dam collapses. And you get a tidal wave moving down the river, picking up the flatboats and the keel boats that were behind the dam and the logs and bringing them down river on this tide, understand? So we do that, and we're moving salt, timber, coal, and pig iron. Kentucky, in the years before the Civil War, was one of the largest producers of pig iron in the nation, coming out of eastern Kentucky. Aha, when we move logs down the river, we take this mallet, we heat it up, and we swing it in the butt of the log and put our brand in. I will not mention some certain names of certain people in here, but they fish these logs out of the river, saw off about 1 inch of the log, put their own brand on it, let it sit there for a while so it ages, then puts it back in the river and float it down here to Frankfort, where there are major mills over a mouth of Benson Creek. Okay, 1820, they come up with this grandiose idea of building a canal. Canals are the way to go. We've seen what's been happening in Great Britain with canals. They've allowed the industrial development to grow in England. So we're going to do canals here. We got a few going. The Erie Canal is going to start, and the canal mania spreads across this country. And one of the ideas they come up with is to move a canal from Louisville and Cincinnati to Charleston, South Carolina. Why of all good creation are we going to Charleston, South Carolina? It is the second largest port in the United States. It rivals New York City at this time. All the cotton and all the stuff in the South is moving out through Charleston. It is one of the richest ports in the world, pre-Civil War. So we're going to build a canal to there. It's going to go up and down the Ohio River, the Kentucky River. It's going to go up the Kentucky River to Beattyville. It's then going to go up the South Fork to Goose Creek, up Goose Creek to Manchester, at which point we're going to build a canal over to Pineville. It's going to go up the Cumberland River, to Barberville. It's going to go up the Cumberland River to Pineville. It's then going to go up Yellow Creek. We are then going to build a tunnel underneath the Cumberland Gap. And let me walk around and see if I can do what Diane showed me to do. And I don't know if you can't really well see that. You can follow the Kentucky River from Carrollton coming down up. We're going to go down the South Fork where it ends. We're going to cut across to Barberville up and wind up at Middlesboro. And then we're going to have another canal on the other side of the Cumberland Gap. We're going to go over the Powell River, the Clinch River, the Hiwassee River. We're going to build another canal. We're going to go to the Santee River. We're going to build another canal and get to the Cooper River, and then we are at Charleston. Now, some of you are wondering about this whole, but I came up with the idea, right? It's a good idea. You guys over there are the financiers. You guys need to find the money. Find the money. You guys are the engineers. You guys figure out what to do. I did my job. I came up with the idea. It's a workable idea. You guys just need to get your act together, find the money, and you guys need to get your act together and come up with the engineering way to do it. Okay? You guys got your job figured out? Okay. And Santee River, Charleston's, let's back up. Charleston's down there at the bottom of Lake Moultrie. So that's how they're going to get there. Of course, it never happens. But we do get the Miami and Erie Canal built, which is part of this whole deal to get you up to Lake Erie. There is a canal running from Lake Erie at Toledo down to Cincinnati. The red thing going off to the left from Cincinnati is the Whitewater Canal, and the one up near the top running off to the left goes over to Indianapolis. 1818, the Commonwealth of Kentucky provides money to clear snags and ripples on the Kentucky River. They're tired of trying to come to Frankfort and running into all these problems of trying to get up the river. So we're going to clean out the river so we, the legislature, can get to Frankfort and cause chaos and confusion across the Commonwealth. 1807, this I find amazing. 1807, the Claremont, the first steamboat in the United States, sails up the Hudson River. 1811, the New Orleans, the first steamboat on the Ohio River, steams from Pittsburgh to New Orleans. Look how short that is. 1819, the Expedition, the first steamboat on the Kentucky River, steams from Carrollton to Frankfort. Technology is moving like lightning across this country. We don't quite know what we're doing with it. This is a real problem. We hear about these amazing things. I think I know how to do it. It's sort of a hit and miss thing, but we do get things done. We are the Athens of the West, or the Athens of the West, whatever you want to call us. The Lexington, Frankfort area. We are at the top of the technology chain in this country. 1820, the Kentucky legislature goes and says, we're going to start building some canals. They're going to put a canal around the falls of the Ohio. They're going to canalize the Green River, the Licking River, and the Kentucky River. The Green River will get canalized. The Licking will not. The Kentucky River will. And the canal at Portland, not Louisville, but Portland, will be built. And if things had gone the way things were supposed to go, there would now be no city called Louisville. There'd be a city called Portland. But the shysters at Louisville schemed and did all kind of nasty things and annexed Portland into their city. So we don't go to Portland, we go to Louisville. Shame on them. 1823, Congress declares all rivers postal roads. This may not sound like much, but this is a major thing. That means they are free roads. It's a postal road. We can move mail over it. We can not only move mail over it, we can get the contract to move mail over it. 1824, the Corps of Engineers, the Corps, is assigned the responsibility by Congress of the Western Rivers. Okay, pause for a second. That is a Western River out there. Western River? Yeah. Let's stop and think. When the United States is first formed, the Mississippi River is the western boundary, right? So there are two river systems, the eastern system, east of the Appalachian, the western system, west of the Appalachian. California and the Pacific coast are a faraway dream. So when we talk about western rivers, even today, people get confused about that. We're talking about the Mississippi River system. That's the western rivers. Under still act of Congress when they say that. Okay. The first steamboat in 1824 carries U.S. mail. Okay. You read my article in Frank magazine. If you didn't, shame on you. In which I talk about that the reason why we had passenger train service was they moved the mail. And when they could no longer move the mail, which paid for the cost of the train, passenger trains went away. This is the same thing that happens here. They give them a mail contract to move mail. That covers the cost of operating the boat. Carrying passengers is gravy. It's extra money. As soon as they start losing the mail contracts, the packet boats start disappearing. 1828, the Corps comes and surveys the Kentucky River. The Kentucky Historical Society has that drawing of the survey of the river. The Falls of the Ohio. Okay, that's the big stumbling stone going downriver. Everything comes down to Louisville, offload and goes around. Most of the year it lacks water. Hard steamboat, which I don't know if you've ever been to the museum up there, is located above the river. A lot of the boats they build the hull and everything, then float it down the river to New Albans and put the engines and everything on it because they can't get it by the falls. The falls are so low. Okay, here we're going to try and do this. I don't know if this thing's going to work or not. Let me take this with me so people out in Cable 10 network is. The Cincinnati's at the upper end of this thing, way down here. Going down river is Evansville. Give you a perspective where you are. Let's see. The bridge up here coming across is the Pennsylvania Railroad Bridge, now the Louisville, Indiana Bridge. The bridge down here at the bottom is the Kentucky, Indiana Terminal. Okay, the above thing is the Portland Canal. That's a man-made development through there. It's been improved year over year over year, first by local people, then by the Corps of Engineers. So that's a man-made channel going down through there. As you come out on the bridge, you notice that there's a bridge segment on the a truss across that. That's the Kentucky chute. The Kentucky chute went down. Of course, you got a dam in there now between the shipping port island and the other island there, whose name I can't remember, came out. The Indiana chute came underneath the truss there. The river's down, but you can see that chute going down there. How'd you like to take a steamboat down through there, coming down and then know you got to make that sharp turn in there? There were pilots that you hired to do that. So you came on down and through there. That's a big blocking point, and getting up and down the river. They built the Portland Canal. I'm going to tell you something that I really shouldn't tell anybody in that, but they went bankrupt, and we don't want the southern states to know this, and we don't tell it to anybody, but the U.S. government actually owns it, but they pretend like they don't own it, because we all know Andrew Jackson said you can't do stuff like that. So we own it, but we don't. Anyway, it isn't until 1863 during the Civil War that the federal government finally acknowledges they own the Portland Canal and say, okay, people, we're going to start upgrading the Portland Canal using taxpayer money. It's 1.9 miles long. It's got 2 locks as it was built. there are the two locks. The problem with the canal is they build them for the steamboats of the day. And of course, by the time they get done building it, the steamboats have gotten bigger. And they constantly run this big battle. They finally got the locks and dams up there that are now, they're 1,200 feet long by, I can't remember how wide they are, but they'll take a tow that's 15 barges, 3 barges wide and 5 barges long through that. Anyway, there's what the canal looked like. You lock through it twice to get downriver. You can see how small it is. 1827, the Baltimore Ohio Railroad and the Southern Railroad, first railroads in the United States. Look how quickly it jumps, the technology, to central Kentucky. 1830, we're going to build a railroad from Lexington to Frankfort to Portland, not to Louisville, but to Portland. It never gets past Frankfort. But this is technology here in central Kentucky, Podunk, Kentucky. We are a technical leader at this time. 1836, the Louisville and Charleston Railroad is now proposed. Louisville, Cincinnati, and Charleston. We're not going to build a canal, we're going to build a railroad. There's two wannabe people in this deal, Maysville, Kentucky, and Madison, Indiana, who are still both striving to be the Cincinnati or the Louisville. They're trapped in by the hills and it never happens. But they're going to build this railroad. There's a meeting held in Lexington, chaired by Henry Clay. They raise money, but it never gets built. Parts of it are built, and the track was never laid on it. Sounds like a California high-speed railroad, doesn't it? Okay. Lexington, Ohio, and Kentucky. Philip Swigert. How come we've never done a discussion on Philip Swigert? One of the most important people within the Commonwealth of Kentucky, within the western part of the United States, the man who keeps Frankfort running and going, and we don't acknowledge the guy. But anyway, he's running the Lexington, Ohio Railroad, later the Lexington Frankfort, and he's running the steamboats on the river. I know some of you people are mad at him, say he's got a monopoly and he favors people with everything, but by golly, he's getting stuff moved from central Kentucky down the river and that. Here is a list of the steamboats being built. And I want you to notice going across the top, the registered of steamboats. 246 are built between 08 and 24, and then we start building, and we're talking packet boats and that. You get up to 1855, 59, you got 1,328. Civil War, we jumped to 2,173. These are basically Army transports. The Army's been out there building and hiring and everything. In 65, the war's over with, and they go to sell them. Now, they paid boo-hoo dollars for these boats, and nobody wants to buy them. A lot of them are just broke for their metal. Nobody wants them. Look at the drop-off in boats in 65 on. And the packet boat era is falling away. Why? Railroads. Yeah, okay. And notice the total loss of lives along the way. We'll look at this a little bit more. You want to talk about a dangerous ride? Go out on a steamboat. I mean, look at it. Look at the number of lives lost in that period. And here it is in a graph showing you the number of lives. And, when Lafayette comes to Frankfort, he almost doesn't get here because his steamboat sinks on him. 1866, the Corps comes back and does a survey of the Ohio River. The war's over with. This is a preliminary survey. And between Pittsburgh and Cairo, they find 140 sunk steamboats out of the shipping channel and that, or the navigation channel. That got to be removed. Give you an idea of the problems. 1835, we're back, the Kentucky Board of Improvements. They're going to issue bonds to build railroads turnpikes, and improve the river. The Commonwealth of Kentucky finances the Kentucky River Locks. It sells bonds. They're going to pay off the bonds using the tolls that the steamboats are going to pay when they went through the locks and dams. I'll tell you up right now, somebody didn't do their math. They're going to build 5 locks from Carrollton to Tyrone, lock and dam 1 to 5. Going to give a 6-foot channel. Hey, packet boats are 5 foot, 6 foot, we're good, right? Okay, the locks are going to be built for 250-ton steamboats. Dumb, 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 dumb. Anyway, we'll talk about this later. Give them a 60-foot channel all the way up to Oregon Landing. Nonsuch is roughly where Oregon Landing is, if you know where Nonsuch is. Aha, the NIMBYs all come out. Not in my backyard. It's going to increase flooding. Those dams are. Oh, they're going to form stagnant pools. Yeah, well, you got to remember, everybody's using straight pipes in those days, dumping all their stuff in there. Yeah, it's going to prevent free commerce. This is one of those big things that's within this country. You shouldn't charge tolls on rivers. Rivers are free to move down. I should not have to pay money to float stuff down the river. Well, I'm sorry, guys. Here are the locks and dams. These are the 14 that are in. We're going to look at the first 5 down there. 8.2 miles, lock 1 to 5 and 36, the contracts are left. It's a 49-foot drop in elevation between Tyrone and Carrollton. They find teeth and bones when they start building the lock here. They move them over to the old Capitol building. They're on display there. Have any of you ever seen them there? Oh, the newspaper accounts say, go to Frankfort and see the bones and the teeth. I wonder what they did with them. Shame Colonel Chin isn't around. I could ask Colonel Chin what happened to him. Lexington, the Kentucky River. Lexington's the big pusher on this. We're the major city in the West. Cincinnati and Louisville and other ones are pushing them away. They want to get the Kentucky River. You know, Lexington sits up high. They're not on the river. So they got 2 places they want to come to. They want to come to Frankfort, lock and dam number 4, or they want to go to Tyrone. And they'll get to Frankfort by Leestown Road or the railroad, or they'll go over to take Versailles Road and Shylock Ferry Road down to Lock 5. They basically wind up going to Lock 4 because it's shorter to go that way. 1836, we're a post road. I don't know when that ends. I've not found anything. It's a star route. You ever heard of star routes? Well, the contract for star routes says it'll be celerity, certainty, and security, and they have these little stars next to them. So when they issue the contract, the postal workers get sloppy and they just put the 3 stars in. So it's a star route. So the guys who deliver your mail out in the rural areas and their cars, that's a star route. Okay, they provide money to remove obstructions on South 4th and Goose Creek. Goose Creek is bringing the salt down. Remember, if you read my article in Frank magazine, that's our big salt producers. And they build wing dams. Wing dams are a dike that goes out in the river, 3/4 of the way out or halfway out, and forces the water around it to go down to speed up the water flow around and the depth to help propel the flatboat and the keelboat downriver. They let bids for lock and dam 6, 7, and 8, plus a lock and dam on South Fork. But the Commonwealth is financially embarrassed. You know what that means? They're broke. So the contracts never get issued. February 14th, 1840, the new Argo arrives in Frankfort from Louisville. It is come to Frankfort using the locks. Well, yeah, sort of, maybe. But none of the locks and dams are 100% complete. 1 in 5 still need major work on. Lock and 1 down at Carrollton's always going to have problems until the Corps comes along and fixes it. 2, 3, and 4 has minor problems. 18 on 40, the Commonwealth of Kentucky is financially embarrassed. We haven't got any money. On November 25th, the ocean gets here, a steam packet boat, and lock and dam 1 to 4 are completed. Philip Swiger is controlling the boats on the river. Now, this is the big thing that gets the people. The contractors are not paid with money. They're paid with bonds. And this is where they get the shaft. They're given a bond that says it's worth $100. They take it over to Farmers Bank, and Farmers Bank will only give them $75. They all go bankrupt. And I understand Farmers is given $100 because they don't trust the Commonwealth of Kentucky paying these things off. And they got to hold it for X number of years to get it totally paid off. So it is a financial record that the Commonwealth runs on these poor contractors. Everybody goes bankrupt. We get in 1841 regular service Madison to Frankfort and Louisville to Frankfort. This is the charge. 12.5 cents per ton of cargo every time you go through a lock. 12.5 cents per cabin passenger. 6 cents per deck passenger. So it costs you 50 cents a ton in tolls to get your goods here. And the Commonwealth collects, during 1843, $7,737. Sorry, people, that isn't enough to cover operational costs, much less provide any money for paying the bonds off. They're junk. Just like the bonds that for the Bright Line Railroad in Florida, which you all hear is such a great railroad for moving passengers and everything. They lost $500 million last year. You don't make money moving people, sorry. Tolls do not cover costs of bond interest and maintenance. It doesn't even cover costs of maintenance. At this time, the Ohio River is navigable 200 days a year. 165 days a year is not. In the summertime, they drain the water behind the locks and dams to repair them. Guys, I thought you were first class engineers. How come the water keeps leaking through them? How come you got, if you want to read something, you need to read the report of the Corps of Engineers when they take over these lock and dams and go to do the repair work on them. I don't know what I call it, fraud or incompetency or what, but you just need to read what has been thrown into these locks and dams to hold the walls up. It's unreal. Anything that happened to be laying loose on the ground got tossed in, you know. Okay. 1850, the Constitution of Kentucky says, we aren't issuing any more bonds for transportation work. I don't know how we went up financing the toll roads. I guess we had a new Constitution. Oh yeah, I forgot. By that time we had to rewrite the Constitution thanks to honest dictate. I forgot about that, okay. 1860, the Civil War, the locks are in disrepair. The lock in Monterey at 63 is out of service. They get it back in service in 66. Once again, revenue does not cover expense. The other thing that's going on, the iron ore is depleted up in eastern Kentucky or along the Kentucky River. The salt works were destroyed during the Civil War. And coal is not depleted, but you as a farmer can now go underground in the wintertime and dig because all the exposed coal seams have been worked so far back in, you need to actually work it as a mine. 1878, the Corps of Engineers comes back and resurveys the river. In 1880, the Corps takes over the locks and dams. Now, this is where they go wrong. They went totally wrong. They rebuilt lock and dam 1 to 4. They did not upgrade them, which is what they should have done. They rebuilt the dumb, stupid things that we had put in. I don't know why they didn't upgrade them. March 1882, lock and dam 1 to 4 are declared rebuilt. 1883, lock 5 is declared rebuilt. Okay, 1883, Congress tells them that people, the Corps just does not have money to go out and do things. Congress has to give them the money, and Congress tells them what to do with the money. Okay, Congress tells them they're going to build lock and dam 6 to 14 up to the forks of the Kentucky River at Beattyville. This is where things go totally wrong. What were you engineers thinking about? Didn't you pay attention in class? What's going on with you? I don't understand this. Look at this. Lock and dam 1 to 5. What's the lock size? 38 feet by 145 feet. Lock 6 and 7. Oh, they're 52 feet by 147. Lock 8, well, 52 by 146. 9 to 14, 51. I mean, if you build your boat to go through lock 14, you're up Diff Creek when you get down to lock, you can't get through. I mean, this is the dumbest thing that, a freshman engineering student should have figured this out. But this is what goes on. The Corps identifies bridge obstructions in that. Bridges are low. The railroad bridge is low. The covered bridge is low. This is why we get some rebuilding done. If you notice here, see the stone foundation? Notice the concrete cap. That's the Corps causing them to raise the height of the bridge. That's why we get the singing bridge with its arch in it, to raise the height. So if we're going to build those lock and dams up here, we want the towboats and those packet boats to get through. Because Frankfort had for a number of years been a midpoint. You operated above Frankfort or below Frankfort due to the bridge restrictions. So the Corps is taking care of them. 1895, you can't float log rafts down the river anymore. We're tired of you floating them down the river and damaging the top of the dams. Sorry, can't do that anymore. You got to bring them down under control and take them through the locks. Here's a picture here in Frankfort. There's your raft. There's your towboat, millboy. And you notice millboy is backing down because if you got the paddle wheel up against the raft, you're going to tear it apart. And you can't push the raft, but you can pull the raft downriver, taking it over to Benson to the sawmills there. 1899, the Refuge Act is passed, and the Corps is put in charge of making sure that you do it. Now, I'm sorry you guys that run the slaughterhouses. You can no longer throw the leftovers from the cows, the pigs, and that into the river. Can't do that anymore. Against the law, the Corps will come after you, against you. You got to find another way to dispose of your things. Oh, you start making Johnny in the sack, right? Don't know what Johnny in the sack was? God, my father used to eat that. That was blood in a stomach thing, and Mom would cook that. I passed on that. Lock and Dam 1 was built in 39, rebuilt in 1882. Okay, we're going to talk about the locks and dams. You were given a little thing on about how to get to them, these locks and dams. I'm going to reiterate up front before I get going on this. If any of you decide to go to where these locks and dams are, please tell somebody where you're going, because a lot of these places, cell phone coverage isn't there, GPS doesn't work, and there's nobody around. And the roads are two-lane Kentucky roads. You know, those roads that got no white line on the shoulder, no white line going down the center, a vertical cliff on one side, a vertical drop on the other side, and no guardrails? Okay, that's what most of these places are like to get to. There it is, upriver at General Butler State Park. There's an aerial view of it. The Lockmaster House is still there, but in terrible condition. Lock 1 through 4 are open during the summertime, run by the Kentucky River Authority. You can drive up this. By the way, let me say this. Most of these places have an SUV or a pickup truck, 4-wheel drive. Think ahead. If you want, ask my wife, Mary Ann, back there. She'll tell you all about going to these places. Here's a shoreline view out. Lock and Dam number 2, built in 1839, rebuilt 1882. This is up at Lockport. Yeah, there was bringing a steamboat packet up the river from Madison to Frankfort, and this gentleman got on board, and the person said, "Where are you going, sir?" He said, "I'm going to hell." And he said, "Sell him a ticket to Lockport." Lockport's interesting. Go there and look at it. There are streets, there's sidewalks, but there's no buildings. They were all washed away in the various floods along the way. Interesting little town. You get up there, I should have told you, the first one is Carrollton, Kentucky, 320, takes it here. Lockport's Kentucky, 389, get you there. It's a decent road. It's sort of falling apart, but it's there. There's an aerial view of it. Lockport is just off on the bottom. A view thereof. I had to throw this in. I found this, greetings from Lockport. I mean, you know. And then they said, you know, if you're going to hell, this is the town to go to. Anyway, Lock and Dam number 3, built 1840, rebuilt 1882. This is up at Monterey, or Guess, on the other side of the river. The lock is on the Guess side of the river. You can go out Bald Knob Road to Kentucky 561 and drive over, and it aerial view of. And there's a pull-off place that you can park and walk down. And if you get me back to talk, I will tell you about these capsins when I worked on the river for Captain John Donaldson. Okay. Anyway, there's a picture of Monterey. Just threw that in. Lock and Dam number 4, Frankfort. Built 1840, rebuilt 1882. Out at Bell Point, Kentucky River. Fairly easy to get to. An aerial view thereof. Jim Seafood is still in place. There's a postcard view of the, there's my picture of it. Okay, actually this is for the next presentation, but we're going to throw this in anyway. What happened on January 8th, 1975 on the Kentucky River here in Frankfort? The last load of coal went down the river. What happened on July 9th, 1991? I'm amazed that nobody knows this. The Shawnee Chief goes over the, yep. That was our tour boat here, our dinner boat. The Brooklyn, Captain John Donaldson, talk about that. If you have me back, we'll talk about the river rafts. We'll talk about Falls City. We'll talk about the Elevated Coal Company. We'll talk about Blanton's Landing. We'll talk about ice on the river. That's the mill buoy sunk on the side. And then, sorry, got to have me back, get on all that. So we're now up to Lock and Dam number 5. Built 42, we built 1886. They closed it during the winter months in 1989, and then they closed it for good in 2006. It's up, I say it's at Tyrone, it's actually downriver from Tyrone. Go to Lawrenceburg, turn on the road to Versailles, before you get to Buffalo Trace, to Wild Turkey, make a left on Lock Road and go down that, and you'll get down to, now, all the locks and dams above Frankfort, you can't get to. They got them encased in barbed wire. I don't know why, but the River Authority in the past couple of years encased them in barbed wire. I don't know anybody that fell into them. They used to be a place where everybody went fishing at, and now you got to snip the barbed wire and crawl underneath it if you're going to go and fish. Anyway, there's an aerial view thereof. Down on the river looking. You know, maybe the reason why it's because I did some stupid things in taking these pictures, but hey, I'm still alive, all right? You know, okay. Lock and Dam number 6. It's out by past Nonsuch. There it is down there on the river out in Woodford County. This is the Kentucky directions. Drive out to Nonsuch, but before you get to Nonsuch, turn off on Patterson Road to Oregon Road and then down. You can't get to it anymore, but there's the thing. Well, you drive up to the barbed wire fence and look at it. There you are inside of it. Palisades down there are beautiful. Well, once again, you're down in this hole, and there's just no cell service down in here. I mean, it's like going in a parking garage, you know. Cell service ends, you drop down there, and the satellite doesn't know where you are, you know. I guess maybe once a day it gets above the hole in the ground. Maybe it doesn't even hit that. Lock and Dam number 7, built 97. They closed it in 89 during the winter months, and then just closed it for good in 2006. It's up at High Bridge. High Bridge is outside of Ashmore. You go to Ash, and then you drive out High Bridge Road. When you go to cut underneath the railroad track to go to the park there, you make a right. Unless you're really brave and stupid, don't go down here. It is a terrible one-lane road with two-way traffic on, vertical cliff on one side and 1,000-foot drop. It ain't 1,000-foot, but by God, it looks like 1,000-foot drop going off. But anyway, if you get down there, it's beautiful to see what's down there and that. At one time, we ran excursion services, way before my time, from Lexington by Southern Railroad out to High Bridge. You got off, you walked the steps down, you got on the steamboat brought you around to Blanton Landings, you got off at Blanton's Landing, got up on the Kentucky Traction and Terminal Interurban, and went back to Lexington. It was a Sunday outing. There's a view of it with High Bridge up there. You can just barely see the, it was supposed to be a suspension bridge, never got finished. And we got a tow pulling a log raft downriver in it. He's got one raft all the way through. There is a power plant there at it today. A view looking back across the river at the power plant. Another view of the lock. Lock and Dam number 8, built in 1900, closed in 89 during the winter months, closed permanently in 2001. There it is, and let's see where I put Lock and Dam number 8. Oh, this is Little Hickman. This is up at a Camp Nelson. So you set Little Hickman in, get to Little Hickman, and then follow the driveway. Once again, people, this is one of those roads they call in Kentucky 2-lane. Anybody else in the world would call maybe a 1-lane on a good day road. You know, cliff, vertical drop off on. But if you're like me and you got to go and see all of them, you got to drive down it. And there we are. My co-pilot keeps praying to God when we do stuff like this, so. Down in. Okay, 1896. I know a lot of people say bad stuff about the Corps. Not, you know, this, about that. In 1896, the Corps says to Congress, Just keep the money for the locks and dams 9 to 4. It ain't worth building them. And Congress says, here's the money, build the things. And the Corps says, hey, there's no reason, build them. So the Corps builds them. They don't want to build them. They say it's a waste of time and money, but they build them. Lock and dam number 9. We're up at Valley View. The ferry, the oldest operating ferry west of the Appalachian Mountains. There's the ferry. See it going across the river up there? You see the pillars in the river? That's the bridge for the Ronnie B. When you get down to Valley View Ferry, right before you get it, right before you get to the ferry, make a right and follow that road back there. It'll take you back there. It's Camp Daniel Boone Road back there. The bridge there is the Ronnie B. At one time, good people, you could have gone down to the Frankfort Depot, bought a ticket, gone out to Cliffside, taken the track from Cliffside out to Millville to Versailles, on over to Nicholasville, dropped down and crossed on the railroad over the bridge there to Richmond and on over to Erwin and up to St. Helens. Can't do that anymore since 1932, but that's when that's from. There's down on the river Added. That's the Brooklyn. We'll talk about it if you hit me back the second time. Okay, 10, built in 05, rebuilt in 06. Closed 89 and then 94 story. We're up at Fort Boonesboro. Okay. You're coming from Winchester going down to Fort Boonesboro. You know where you turn off to go to Halls on the river? Instead of going back under, make a left and follow on out and you'll get out to here. That's the road up above. The park's on the other side. And you can see where it washed out right after it was built. And they put that little blockage in between the lock and the bank. There's another view of it today. They have a Kentucky River Museum up there at the Fort Boonesboro Park there. It's a very nice place to visit. And there's another view thereof. You go on upstream a little bit on that road I told you about, and you'll go to the Civil War fort at Boonesboro. It's not at Boonesboro, it's at Ford. Get that? Ford? River Ford? Okay. I don't understand. We got a Civil War fort here in this town. I'm sorry, I'm going to editorialize. And actually saw Civil War action. The successful defense of it meant we remained the capital city, and we do nothing with it. They got a rinky-dink little thing out there in the middle of nowhere, and the signs along the interstate and lead you there are beyond belief. Okay. Anyway, this is where the L&N track, now CSX, crosses the river. That was Ford. Talk about that if I ever get back. That's the power plant that was there. If I ever back. Okay, past that. Up to lockdown number 11, built 06, closed 89, and then the 97 closed. This is up at Ravenna. It's fairly easy to get to. You're on Kentucky 1645, you go out to the golf course. Ravenna was a big major Louisville, Nashville coal yard. The coal went away, the yard's been tore up and everything. Kentucky Steam Museum's there now. The golf course was sold to the city, but the lock and dam's still there. You can go and look at it if you want to. It's fairly easy to get to. There's a view thereof, another view. I don't know what he was doing over there and how he got there, but he got there. Lock and dam number 12. Wait a minute, I was wrong. Where was I at back a minute ago? I wasn't at Ravenna. Where was I? I was at, I'm sorry, 11. I wasn't thinking. I got ahead of myself. I apologize. 11. I was recently there. It's absolutely in the middle of nowhere. Got down there. Some good old boys offered to clip the wire and help me through to it, and I said no thanks. And Mary Ann got upset that I sit there talking with them for 20 minutes. But guys, if some good old boys start talking to you and they're showing you pictures of the fish they caught and they got a shotgun laying on the ground, You might as well stay there and talk with them, right? Yeah, see, Marianne, they all said yes. You just stay there and talk with them. Okay, now we're up with that. I'm sorry. I got out of sync. I think this is one of the reasons they closed it down. This is dumb and stupid. Walking out over that to get out here to get my picture. Yeah. Oh, well, we do some. 13. 13 is in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I cannot explain this. Nowhere. You take South Irving and you drive through roads that go narrow and narrow and narrow and become a forest road. There it is, in the middle of nowhere. Once again, I met some good old boys up there who were fishing. That was their car. They were fishing out of. Okay. If you are brave, put in Heidelberg when you're there, if you go there, and let it take you over the forest roads to get you to Heidelberg. If you aren't brave, go back to South Irving and take the highway route. But it's really neat to get back there on those old logging roads and work your way over. Okay, 14's at Heidelberg. Heidelberg was a thriving little community with a rail yard and everything. It's all gone. Let me back up a second. Oh, forgot. We'll talk about it later. There it is. There is, you can see it from off the bridge. If you look a little bit to the left of the bridge, there's a bridge there, or a pillar. That was the Turkey Foot Railroad came across there. A close-up of the lock and dam down in it. I went over with somebody. I was with somebody that day. I actually had on a life jacket when I walked across to get over there. Strange that day. So anyway, come out. Okay, we're now up at Lock and Dam 14. No, wait a minute, back up. Got ahead of myself again. Got ahead of myself. Okay, if you're there at Heidelberg and you want to go up to Ida May, drive up to Ida May, it was an old coal camp. That's where the Turkey Foot Railroad went to. Turkey Foot Railroad also went up to, what was the name of the place up there? I can't think of the name. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. Crest something or the other. That's where the Turkey Foot rail yard was. It's now a church camp. If you put in McKee, you can drive the old Turkey Foot Railroad right away over to McKee. Actually, to the hill above McKee. Then there's a road that goes down. It's really, if you don't mind being out in the absolute middle of nowhere where there's nobody around, and if you break down, you're most probably going to starve to death or something out there. It's a neat ride to go across. So you want to go across it. And this part I'm going to be really serious about. If you're at Heidelberg and you want to go over to Beattyville, and you put in Beattyville in your GPS, and it goes to put you on Bell Point Road, do not do it. Do not do it. It's a very nice road that starts out 2 lanes, goes to 1 lane, goes to a half a lane, turns to a gravel road, and then takes you for a 1/10 of a mile down the creek bed. Have you ever gone out Benson and gone across Benson Creek up Snow Hill Road? Think of driving a 1/10 of a mile like that in the middle of the creek bed. Okay, don't do that. Anyway, then you're up to Beattyville, where the 3 come together. I stuck this in because there's the coal loadout that they were using in the turn of the 1900s to load the coal barges that were coming down to Frankfort. In 1886, they built a bear trap dam. That's sort of a splash dam, a permanent dam, up at Beattyville to hold the logs in back to float them down. There's the logs, being ready to come down river.
tow with 3 barges, Beattyville to Carrollton, 3 days. I worked one summer for free, that's how stupid I am, for free for Captain John Donaldson on the Lyle Godiac, taking empty barges down the Kentucky River to Milton, Kentucky, loading them with sand, I know it isn't quite Milton, and bringing them back up to Frankfort when we had the sand pit here in Frankfort. The Corps yearly removes sag sawyers and bars in the river. Nobody does that anymore. Okay. Back in 1982, during my life in state government, I got put on various stupid committees along the way. For one reason, I do not know why I was on them. But hey, at one point, I was the governor's representative to the cut going through Pikeville. I got to cast the governor's vote. I got to cast the governor's vote on the route of I-64 up near Ashland area. Anyway, I was on this committee, what we're going to do with the Kentucky River. The Corps was going to abandon it. My captain over there, listen to this. I said to the committee, what we need to do is find a tour boat operator, B&B from Cincinnati, have them come down and bring their boat down to Carrollton. We will advertise boat rides on the Kentucky River up to Shakerville. The boat, you'll stay overnight at Butler State Park. You'll get on the boat, you'll ride up to Shakertown. You'll spend 2 nights at Shakertown. The day you're there, you take the boat up to Boonesville and come back. And then you'll come back down to Carrollton and stay overnight at Butler. I said, well, you have to subsidize it. We can't subsidize it. We can't do anything like that. That's illegal. Okay. I thought it was a great idea. I will admit shortly thereafter they found money to subsidize building a Toyota plant, but I guess that was a different deal. Anyway, I still think it was a great idea. Corps turns locks 5 to 14 over the state in 1985, turned the other ones over to us in 1998. Governor Thomas McAfee had this to say about the Kentucky River. Maintenance of the Kentucky River is one damn thing after another. There's a Paul Sawyer print and another Paul Sawyer print of the Kentucky River. And thank you for putting up with me. I appreciate it. She's going to walk this around and see if anybody's got any questions to ask of me.
I'm going to actually, you keep this one. I'm going to grab a different one.
Okay. Anyway, I find the Kentucky River a fascinating river. Without it, Frankfort would not be the capital because we were on a river that you could get here during the period that we'd have the legislative sessions. So it was a major thing in our focus. Okay.
All right. Anybody have any questions? I'll bring you the mic. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
You made these locks and dams the most entertaining talk I've heard in a long time.
Okay, since transportation went away on the river, was it still important, the water levels, to supply water to the cities, or?
Yeah, that's the reason why we have the Kentucky River Authority.
Well, but do they maintain these locks? They look sort of desolate.
Yeah, well, they went and shut Lock 5 on through to, so there wouldn't be leakage. The Kentucky River Authority redid all the locks and dams. You remember they redid 4 here. And they left 1 through 4 open because there was such a demand for pleasure boats that coming up. But everyone, and they still, you get your water bill. Kentucky Dam Authority on the thing. So they are still taking to maintain those. We definitely need them. Frankfort, Lexington, Lawrence, all the towns along the river draw their water out of it, and of course we dump our stuff back in the river. But I noticed that all the towns here, they draw their water from up above the city and dump their stuff in the water below the city.
That's right.
So we won't drink our stuff, but we'll drink the stuff Lawrenceburg is drunk. Yes, sir.
Charles, you've really got me with the Johnny in the bag remark, and so I had to look it up. And it's from Germany, it's Westphalian Beethovenwurst, and of course it came to Cincinnati, and so it's a blood sausage, right? It's a
Right.
blood sausage, okay. You really got me with that one. And it's also a character in Sopranos, in the Sopranos series.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Jim.
Can you back up about 4 or 5 slides? One of the last locks right there. Keep going. There's more than 4 or 5. That one. One forward. What are we looking at right here, and what's the big door that goes back into basically a wall?
What we're doing is we're standing out where I shouldn't be standing. We're standing on the riverside of the lock. And the door back there is the door that swings in to block the water.
To close the lock?
Yeah.
So we're looking at actually the lock,
Yeah, it's the lock gate.
and the lock gate's embedded in there and would swing out. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And as you look up there on the upper left at the top, you can see the bridge pillar for the railroad bridge, because it doesn't quite come up and meet the other bridge.
All right.
Yes, sir.
You were going to mention something about the capstans,
What?
the things for opening and closing the...
Okay. People asked about that. I was going to say it, but we'll talk about it another time. But we'll talk about it. Okay. Here I am. I'm working on that towboat. I'm a deckhand. Okay. When you go downriver, we got 3 barges. The first barge you push up and you put in the lock. You untie, you back out. You close the gate. You drop the water down. You open up the lower gate and you wash it through. You tie it off. You bring the water level back up. You bring the second barge in. You untie it. You drop it down. You wash it through. You tie it on. And then you release the water and you bring the towboat with the third barge in. You lower it down. You bring it through and you tie it onto the barge. And downriver you go. Okay. Do that through 4 locks. You come upriver, and the friggin' barge is loaded with sand. You push the first barge in the lock. You raise the river up, and you can't wash it through. You got to take a line off the barge, and you got to carry it over your shoulder up to that capstan. And then you got to wrap that line around the capstan, and you got to hope that the cores got the electricity to the capstan, or otherwise you saw the holes, you got to stick a paddle in and walk it around. And then there's the thing where you pulls it back, and you pull that barge through that lock, and you get it through the lock and you tie it off. And then you drop the water and you bring the next barge in. You repeat that another. You do that through 4 locks coming up with a loaded barge, wrapping it around that line. That friggin' line weighs a whole lot of weight. It ain't a little weightless thing. And I was doing that for free, just for the fun of the heck of going out and working on the river. God.
Yes, I was wondering, I know the Green River, they're taking out some of the dams.
Yeah, they took out 4, 5, and 6 and lock 1 on the Barren River. I suspect the Green is going to wind up like the Kentucky River. My understanding is there's no coal traffic left on the Green River. There's no commercial traffic. I may be wrong, but that was my understanding. And they were doing an evaluation, the Corps was, of closing it down. They closed it down. I guess we're going to wind up with the Green River Authority so that they can make the water level. I assume there's places drawing water out of the reservoirs down there, the pools, to keep their city waterworks going. Assumption on my part. But they took out the other ones, which caused a water drop in the level in Mammoth Cave. Yeah. Okay.
And then I just had one more question. How wide was the Kentucky River when it was actually a river and not a canal?
It was anything from a wild river washing everything before it to a little trickly stream running down in which there was no water to drink from, which is the reason why we go and build the reservoir out at Cove Spring. Because the river doesn't provide us with water. So we built Cove Spring. Once again, it's amazing what this city is doing and other people are doing around at this time. We're technological giants. We built that reservoir out there. We put in wood and cedar pipes to bring the water in town. We're not dependent upon that river out there for our drinking water thereafter. We got a reservoir we put out there which we're storing water in and everything. And I still think it was a crying shame that we bulldozed that because somebody said, oh, it may collapse and we'll sue you. Sorry. The standpipe's still out there. Thank God they saved the standpipe.
All right. Any other questions?
Oh,
Lada, hold on.
Wait a minute.
Hold on just a second so they can hear you. Here you go.
When would you say was the heyday of the steamboats that came by here and had the calliopes, and it was a big deal?
The last packet boats on the river were a little bit before World War I. And that's when the packet boat, and it wasn't really packet boats, they were running excursions up to Shakertown. And that was their big thing. The packet boat trade had already disappeared. The railroads had claimed it all. The towboat industry kept going up until the 1970s. We used to have barges that came with fuel oil to the Gulf fuel bulk plant down here. And of course, we had the sand coming in, and we had stuff coming up to Blanton's Landing there for a while by barge. So the river was part of the city up until about the 1970, and then we just walked away from it, turned into a pleasure thing, and we got I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of anything on this. We are seriously looking at making the river again part of this community, which it should be. So my hat's off to the city for at least doing that part.
Any other questions or comments? Oh.
Way over yonder, our captain.
One moment. Here you go.
Thank you. Hey, Charles, I'm Captain Paul from Rock and Thunder River Tours in Madison, and we run the only tours from Madison to Frankfort on the Kentucky River. And what a great thing you did. This is absolutely wonderful. I'm so glad I did not miss this today. This river is an absolute gem. Every year I have people from all over the world come do this tour with me. I've had a lady from New Zealand that has come 6 years in a row. She could not come during COVID, but she's booked and she'll be back with us this year. Just an absolute gem of a river. Those locks are an American treasure, and I hope they keep those open. People love the trip. They come up, we spend the night at the Capitol Plaza in Frankfort and go to Buffalo Trace. But you did such a great job. I hope you will come ride the river with me and you will not have to turn any captain.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. If we don't have any other questions, let's give Charles another round of applause.
All right, thank you all for coming. I do want to let you all know our next lecture is May 9th at 1 o'clock, and that is Nikki Hughes. There is something in the air of Kentucky that makes a man a soldier, a history of the Kentucky Militia and National Guard. And I also do want to, you all are the first to hear this because we're just now announcing it, but in conjunction with our last lecture of the series, of the season, June 13th, which is the great dissenter Peter S. Canelos, who is the author of the book, The Great Dissenter, about Judge John Marshall Harlan, and the managing editor for Enterprise at Politico. The day before that lecture, we are going to be having a rededication ceremony for the Franklin County Courthouse in honor of Judge John Marshall Harlan. The Kentucky Supreme Court has approved this naming, and so this was always planned to be in conjunction with that, but you all are the first to hear it. So, thank you all for coming.